Chapter 13. Survival Instinct. Turtle Rock, Arizona. Having spent hours reworking their strategies, going over with the Silver Fox technicians what was successful, what was not, and in general how the Yazata fought, Gator's team now heads back out into the field. With Benahil aware they are hunting him, the agent's task is made even more difficult. Because of this, Mulder focused all of his attention and brain power on the problem of counteracting Shunkan Ito. Arguably, a Yazata's most powerful ability, teleportation in battle, coupled with already inhuman speed and strength, makes for a nigh unbeatable opponent. He's gotta know that we're coming for him, Mean says, fidgeting in his seat. I don't like this at all. Of course he knows we're coming, Gator replies. Would you rather we did nothing? Let him continue to work with the devils and kill whoever he pleases? We're the best chance at putting an end to him. No one else on this planet has faced a Yazata in battle and lived to tell the tale, save for our own Hilliard. We have crucial first-hand experience that cannot be duplicated. We've seen how he moves, how he reacts to us. No one else has been able to go back to the locker room and study the tapes but us. We won't have the element of surprise this time, Pierce says. Look what good that did us. He reacts so fast that getting the drop on him could never make up for it. We're going to have to defeat him by outsmarting and outgunning him. We saw that with enough force, diamonds can penetrate his armor, Mean says. We did make him bleed, Pierce adds. And if it bleeds, what do they say? Gator asks his team, trying to rile them up. It can fucking die, Reuben answers, flexing his biceps. Gator smiles approvingly. The team touches down in the same relative area as before. Immediately sweeping the site for signs of an ambush, the agents clear the area of threats. Big Bird is stationary, Means reports, studying his wrist-mounted scanning device. He's the only heat signature ahead of us, except for small animals. Everybody stay alert. Keep your eyes and ears open. He isn't going to just stand in one spot waiting for us. Easton, Ellis, face rear. Keep him from trying his slick little backstabbing move, Gator says, touching his bandaged ribs as a reminder. No one try to solo. You spot the target, we engage as a team. One-on-one, he could take each of us. We're much stronger as a whole. Silently, they make their way through the alleys towards a second showdown with the Grigori Yazata, Benahil. Benahil opens his eyes, snapping out of a meditative trance as soon as he senses the approach of his human opponents. His dominant hand slides to the hilt of his sword in anticipation. They come, he whispers, ready for them. Lydia covers his mouth quickly. Shh! She pulls back the curtain just enough for Jake to see the flashing lights of several police cruisers. Gerald stands on the porch, speaking with the officers as they approach the home. We warned you, old man, one of the officers says, rapidly walking up towards the porch. Threateningly, he has already pulled his sidearm, and it's out and visible. We know you're harboring a known fugitive and obstructing our investigation. Are you threatening me? I've seen your type before, and I'm not afraid. You can't bully or intimidate me. Until you get a warrant, you cannot search my property. If you're done, please get the hell out of here. You dumb old bastard, the cop growls. You aren't protecting your grandson. You're aiding a known mass murderer. Jake isn't some poor kid trapped in a bad situation. He's killed people. He's killed cops. Hell, he may even killed the entire population of Clavemont for all we know. Any more blood he spills is on your hands, too. Thank you for your caution, officer. Fucking prick, cop says, walking back to his car. We'll get that warrant, and then you won't be so cocky. Come see me when it's legal, Gerald replies, going into his home and closing the door. He leans against the wood, taking several deep breaths. Jake, we don't have much time. I heard, the teen replies, walking out of the bedroom with Lydia. That didn't take them long. To be fair, you've left a hell of a lot of breadcrumbs. Well, not on purpose. Jake tries not to panic, but his options are severely limited. They're still in the driveway, Lydia says, looking out the window again. They're probably phoning in for that search warrant. You've made plenty of enemies, boy. It won't be easy to sneak you out of here. You can't help me, Jake says, leaving to gather his belongings back into his bag. I don't want you guys to get in trouble with me. If you don't get caught, we won't get in trouble. Now bag up your stuff and meet me in the basement, Gerald says. Jake shoves his belongings back into the bag, and his grandmother reluctantly brings back his still soaking wet, dirty laundry inside of a black trash bag. They're clean at least, Lydia says, trying to smile. Jake hefts the bag over his shoulder, adjusting the added weight of the water. Kissing his grandmother on the cheek, they embrace before he leaves to meet up with his grandfather in the home's basement. Gerald hands Jake the Williams family Bible and a set of keys. Don't ever forget that you're family or where you come from. We'll always be connected, no matter the distance, Gerald says. Grandpa, just take it. You're going to need a strong faith to get through this. What are these for? Jake asks, dangling the keys. I run a storage unit on 10th and Lincoln. There might be a few things inside that could help you. Jake does not know what to say. The kindness of his grandparents is unbelievable. He would never have expected them to help him, even after learning the truth. Here, Gerald says, shoving a wad of $20 bills into the teen's pocket. Stay off the buses. They'll be tracking them closely. As soon as you're able, get yourself a used car. I don't have a license. Gerald groans. Complications are unwelcome at this point. You're resourceful. You'll figure something out. Jake moves towards the small window leading up to the backyard. Gerald nods. The yard's fenced in. They can't be watching this window without already being on the property. You still have a chance. Stick to the yards and stay off the roads as much as possible. Thank you for everything. I just wish that I could do more. Climbing up to the window and unlatching the hook, Jake pauses and looks back one final time. He's filled with sadness and terror, but he knows that he must find strength to endure. You've done more than enough. You've given me a chance, and that's more than I had before. I love you both. Be safe, Jake. We'll be praying for you. Climbing through the window, Jake emerges in the small fenced-in yard. He looks into the next yard, making sure it's clear, before he scales the fence and continues on. Watching from the kitchen window of the house across the street, Inyana grins with anticipation. After all of the setbacks, the time has finally come for her to act. You're finally making your move, Inyana whispers. It's time that I do the same. Leaping over the neighbor's fence and running as fast as he can, Jake hears police begin shouting, and he knows that they've caught on to the fact that he's no longer inside his grandparents' home. He prays that they'll not face trouble for aiding him, but he cannot worry about that now. The teen must concern himself solely on getting away. With as many police as have gathered for him, one mistake and he'll be sitting either in a jail cell or on a coroner's examination table. Clearing the next fence, Jake's bag catches on the corner and causes him to fall forwards clumsily. Landing hard on his face, the teen feels his mouth fill with blood. He glances back towards his bag, but as he hears the sounds of dogs and men shouting, he realizes he does not have time to untangle his possessions. Cursing, he leaves the bag and runs for the edge of the next yard. An elderly woman on her back porch screams as Jake runs past. But much to her surprise, the man that's being chased by the police pays her no attention. Hot on the teen's heels, half a dozen police scale the fence into the woman's yard and dart past her. Wide-eyed and in disbelief, the woman merely stares forward at her fence, wondering who will be the next to violate her privacy. Jake clears the fence, putting the canine unit further behind. He thinks this should buy him a few moments of rest, as the dog handlers will be forced to go the long way around. Being faced with the police barricade ahead of him, he realizes how dangerous assumptions can be. "Stop right there!" an officer shouts, keeping his gun fixed on the teen. "Easy, fellas," Jake cautions, backing up to the fence. "Let's not have this turn into violence." "Too late for that, cop killer," another officer growls. The hatred and disgust in the men's voices makes it apparent that there will be no reasoning with them. Their opinions have already been formed, and they are not in favor of hearing Jake's side of the story. Damn it, Jake thinks. I'm cornered, and this isn't a friendly crowd. With their numbers and armament, I do not believe even I could increase our chances of survival significantly. Well, how confident are you? I'm sitting at 0 here. Only slightly better. Jake relinquishes control to Yamura. You're up then, but remember, no killing. I shall make no promises. If our survival is jeopardized, I shall do whatever is necessary. Yamura immediately casts the Danbei spell, enshrouding himself into a magical mist. The police fire into the darkness, blindly hoping that one will score a hit. The Sakari tries to escape the area while maintaining within the mist. Maneuvering to the side of the police barricade, he manages to push open the door of the nearest home. The family inside may suddenly show up and attack him, but Jake cannot pay that any attention now. He is forcibly put back into control of his body and finds that Yamura is unresponsive. He looks down at the sight of blood. He knows that he's been shot. Yamura? Hey, wake up! I need you to heal us! Fear fills the teen. With no recourse to restore this level of damage, he knows he only has limited time. It's painful to breathe, or even move. Jake's head throbs, and he can hear the police outside mobilizing against him. Special Agent Rice takes the lead of the barricade, as they make sure that the home is completely surrounded. Does he have any hostages? Rice asks. One of the leading local officers replies. We got lucky in that respect. The home's been vacant for weeks. The owners are on vacation in Jamaica. First good news we've had in a while. What about the rear exit? Is it covered? We have the entire home surrounded. He isn't getting out without handcuffs or a toe tag. His breathing labored. Jake leans back against the door and slides down to his haunches. A red smear of blood is left on the wood. The pain has subsided somewhat, which worries the teen more than the wound itself. He feels an overwhelming fatigue, but he knows better than to succumb to the pull of sleep. If I pass out now, I may never wake back up. Jake had once seemed to think that the creature known as Yamura was invincible. When in control of the teen's body, the Sakari was able to perform miraculous feats of strength, agility, and resilience. Using the mystical art of Seal Asilaire, Yamura was repeatedly able to heal himself of the injuries that otherwise would have proven fatal. The teen again tries to rouse the Sakari, but receives no response. It's a bad time for you to be taking a nap. Jake coughs, blood staining the palm of his hand. He stares at the crimson thoughtfully. That can't be good. Focusing with all the concentration he can muster, Jake feebly attempts to draw out any remaining reserves of Yamura's energy. Perhaps the key to restorative magic lies within the Sakari's own power, he hopes. The best the teen is able to accomplish is to manifest a tiny dancing flame of black fire before him. That won't cut it. Damn it, Yamura! I could really use your help right now. He cannot believe that he's reached such a desperate place where he actually needs the devilish creature's assistance just to survive. Sirens outside increase in number as reinforcements arrive. Surrounded with only one way in or out of the building, Jake realizes his chances for escape are nil. Most likely, should he attempt to flee, he would only suffer fatal wounding. That is, if this wasn't already fatal, Jake thinks, holding a hand against the dark stain that has swelled out around his right pectoral muscle. He has no illusion remaining of luck. He's already accepted that one of his lungs has probably already been punctured. Come out now with your hands up, an officer shouts from just outside the door. The proximity of his voice heightens the already rampant fear the teen experiences. We all know that this is only going to end one of two ways. We have you cornered. You're either coming out of that house in handcuffs or in a body bag. You have zero chance of escape. Jake coughs, drilling blood down the front of his shirt. He looks around the room again, but aside from kitchen wares, there's nothing that he can use to defend himself. The problem is, he would not want to hurt someone just trying to remove what they think is a dangerous murderer off the streets. Faced with their lives or his own, however, doubt grows within Jake that he would be unwilling to kill to stay alive. The desire to preserve one's life is a powerful force, and one that a person cannot say with certainty how they would react until the moment actually presents itself. Would it help if I told you that you just missed him? Jake tries to jest, but his voice is too weak to be heard by the men outside. Could really use a hand, Yumura. Jake coughs again, to even more blood. Any time now would be good. Kinda dying here. Seal Asalair? Is that ringing any bells? Hello? Yumura? Police units mobilize all around the building, clad in full SWAT gear and armed to the teeth. The door shakes violently behind the teen as a two-man battering ram is employed. The wood begins to splinter as the frame loosens with each blow. Do I try to resist and probably die? Or stand down and face the rest of my life in prison and still may be killed? Jake forces himself to his feet and takes a few staggering steps forward. The door shakes again and again as the police continue to try forcing their way inside. Yumura, wake up! Jake screams, throwing his head back, as fearful tears fill his eyes. He's overwhelmed by unrelenting terror. Daylight enters the building as the police break open their first hole in the door. Seeing progress, the men double their efforts until finally the hinges are torn free and the door collapses. Down on the floor! The first officer inside shouts, fixing the muzzle of his shotgun on the wanted fugitive. The fight has left Jake, and he knows he cannot dodge a shotgun blast. Closing his eyes, he loses consciousness and falls to his back before the police can ever place him in restraints. Refreshed after her shower, Danny feels 10 pounds lighter after having scrubbed her skin until it was red and sore in order to remove the swamp mud. She looks in the mirror and ties her hair up, and is surprised that nearly all of the color has grown out. I almost look normal, Danny laughs. She pulls on a white tank top and her green apprentice robe over it. Manel and Allure are waiting outside the restroom for her to emerge. Danny is startled upon exiting. Allure is grinning. You got a date? No, nothing like that. I just wanted to check on the rest of the team that was injured. Oh, Allure replies. I thought maybe Vadis missed you and wanted to meet up. Danny blushes. He has a lot on his mind right now. Scrimauer killed his brother, so he's kind of retreated into his own thoughts. I'm pretty sure he wishes he could just get his hands on the rogue. I don't blame him. How did you do on the mission? Allure asks. She's already heard the rumors that Danny was the only non-master still standing at the end of the battle. I guess I did all right. Master Forgeron really did all of the heavy lifting. Don't be so modest. You outlasted several provinces and survived a saint. I can't imagine how terrifying that must have been. Danny shudders, recalling the cold presence of the saint's aura. I was lucky not to have just pissed myself. Manel scoffs. It must not have been a fully summoned saint, or you'd be dead. Allure pokes Manel in the chest with her finger. When have you ever seen a saint? What makes you an expert? She grins widely. Are you a bit jealous? Manel swats Allure's hand aside. Give me a break. I have no reason to be jealous of her. I bet that if you'd went on that mission instead of her, you wouldn't have lasted as long. Manel growls with indignation, balling his fists. Easy, guys, Danny says, trying to break the tension. We got the bad guy, so let's just be celebrating, not arguing. Allure hooks Danny's arm, pulling her along. Don't let him get to you, she says loudly. He has something stuck up his ass 24/7. The girls exit the dormitory and sit on the steps for several minutes, watching the sparkling of the crystalline streets. Manel may not say it, but I will. I am so jealous of you, Allure says, smiling. Danny quickly looks at her, expecting an angry expression, but instead sees the smile on her bright red lips. Seriously, you're fitting in here so perfectly. A lot of the masters are talking about you, and comparing you to Lieutenant Nando. Comparing us? Why? Vadas is a true genius, like none other the city has ever seen. He advanced so quickly that there was not a precedent. Nothing challenged him until he became a Knight of Solomon. You've been an apprentice here just a few months, and you've already taken part in 2 missions with the Blackwings. You faced a revenant, a rogue magician, and a saint, and you've come out on top each time. I've been on 1 mission as an apprentice, and it was just to collect herbs. Danny sighs. It seems like I'm drawn to the violence. I'd hoped that things would be different. Allure turns towards her, concerned. What do you mean? In my old life, my teacher was a murderer. I did terrible things for Sensei Schaefer. Horrible things that I'll never be able to take back. When Yamura was revived, I was a key component. Yamura killed a lot of people, and their blood is on my hands as well. Don't be so hard on yourself. Allure strokes Danny's back in comfort. You said it yourself, that was your old life. This is your life now. And here, you aren't the disciple of some murderous nutjob. You're a superstar that's kicking ass and taking names. You're going to surpass the rest of us, and we'll be here cheering you on. Thanks, Danny says, tears in her eyes. She wipes them away with one finger. You're way too nice. We're friends, Allure says, standing up. That's what we do for each other. Danny recalls her classmates at the dojo and how she treated Jake. She fights back the resurging tears. Before, she did not know what it was like to be a true friend. Now that she has a fresh start, she has a chance to build real friendships. I need to check on the other members of the team that were injured. Do you know where they would be? Danny asks. The infirmary barracks. The Masters of Healing live there and take care of any injuries or afflictions. Can you show me the way? Allure nods, hopping down off the steps. I'll take you there. The girls head to the infirmary, which ends up being nearly a 2-mile hike. Danny hopes that she never is injured at Master Dioda's or it would take too long to get here. A large red cross marks the front of the building, and Danny finds the familiar image comforting. Some similarities to the other world are useful, as the cross symbol carries with it a powerful reassurance. Knights of Solomon are posted outside the infirmary's entrance. What's your business here? One of the knights asks. We're here to see apprentices Abbott and Drahele. They should have been brought in after the mission to apprehend Adrian Scrimauer. I was a teammate of theirs on the mission and want to check in on them, Danny says, showing the knights her tattoo that marks her as a student of Master Juvit Dioda. Allure reveals her identical tattoo, and the knight nods in approval, stepping aside. You're Apprentice Livingston? Danny nods, confused. Yes, sir. The knight suddenly smiles. We're hearing good things about you. Keep it up. Thanks, Danny says before she and Allure enter the building. The infirmary is similar in structure to a more familiar hospital, but it has less rooms and closets. All rooms that are not used for treatment and recovery are given over to the housing of the Masters of Healing and their apprentices. A heavy African-American woman with large oval glasses and grayed hair that is nearly blue in color sits at the desk on the first floor, acting as the secretary and a directory. Greetings, young ones. What brings you here? Master Vicky Bass asks. This must be a visiting excursion, as you all seem uninjured. Yes, Master, Danny answers. We're here to visit the apprentices that were injured in the mission to capture the rogue magician Adrian Scrimauer. Apprentices Caitlin Abbott and Chua Drahele. Master Bass nods before turning her attention to her papers. Rooms 37 and 38. Do not perform any magic in those rooms. Sensory spells have been placed that will alert the knights if triggered. Obliging the master's words, the girls continue on down the hallway to the patient rooms, stopping at room 37. Entering, they discover that rooms 37 and 38 are connected, with only a divider between them for privacy. Danny, Abbott says, brightening up as the 2 girls enter. What are you doing here? I came to see you guys. How are you feeling? Abbott shrugs, looking down at her white hospital gown. Small adhesive patches cling to various places on her skin. Herbal magic, Abbott says, touching one of the patches on her cheek. They say it'll take 3 days to grow new skin to replace my burns. I also had a concussion and a few broken bones. Ouch, Danny winces. But at least you're still alive. Abbott's demeanor changes, becoming saddened. Danny immediately regrets her choice of words. I heard that we lost several members of our team. Danny nods. Sen Paza, Ravashi Nobili, Keith Demerit, John Katz. Danny whispers, having committed their names to memory, so as never to forget their sacrifice. They were all better magicians than me, Abbott says sadly, breaking into emotional tears. Any one of them should be here in my place. We all did our parts, Caitlin. And we'll have to grow from this, Chua says, speaking up from the other bed. He too is covered with the skin-regenerating herbal patches. You got him though, right? He was stopped? Danny nods. The Knights have Scrimauer in custody. He won't be hurting anyone else ever again. How is Provost Fisher? Abbott asks, tossing her head back onto the pillow for relief. She did not hear the name of her sponsoring Blackwing in the list of those killed. I haven't seen him yet, but he and Javad are alive. Scrimauer put them through hell, trapping them with puppet magic. I think they're still being isolated to check for lingering traces of his control. That bastard, Abbott hisses, bearing deep hatred for Scrimauer. I wish I could have paid him back for what he did to everyone. The Knights will handle his punishment. You focus on getting better, Danny says. Is there anything I can get for either of you? Can you go back to Earth and get us some real painkillers? This herbal stuff barely takes the edge off, Chua laughs. Sorry, I don't think that's allowed. I had to try. The teens laughed together, their greater cares and stress temporarily melting away. Danny is happy. Despite the losses she has shared with her new friends, together they will be able to overcome their grief. Each will strive to become stronger in order to protect their teammates. The bonds forged between these youths will only strengthen through the adversity. He's waking up, a voice says. Jake's vision is still blurred. Throbbing pain rings throughout his head. Each breath feels like fire in his lungs. He tries to reach his hand up to his chest to touch the wounds, but is unable due to being shackled to a large metal restraint chair. Be alert. He's still very much dangerous, Special Agent Rice warns, keeping his dominant hand on his gun holster. That restraint chair will hold him. Not even Schwarzenegger could bust out of that, local officer inside the interrogation room with them says. Rice becomes agitated, turning on the man. Jake Stewart is not an ordinary prisoner. Underestimating him is not wise. He looks like a normal punk-ass kid to me. That normal punk-ass kid, as you put it, has killed dozens of people and caused destruction on a massive scale. If he were to get loose again, everyone in this community would be in danger. Jake tries to take in his surroundings, but his body is ravaged by unbearable pain. Places that previously did not hurt now bring agony. He assumes the police were extra rough in bringing him in. When one of their own is victim, the police tend to react with the furious passion of vengeance. Lieutenant Rollins and the several officers killed in Rockland were all respected members of their communities and regarded highly by their peers. Jake is placed in the very elite category of hatred as a cop killer. We took care of your gunshot wound, Rice says, noticing Jake's surprising level of alertness so soon after awakening. You were lucky that bullet had a clean exit. Your lungs may never be the same again, but at least you're alive. Yeah, I'm lucky, Jake says with a rasp. The pain of speaking nearly drives him back into unconsciousness. It feels as though boiling hot liquid is being poured down his throat with each breath sucked in. Where am I? He asks, wincing and grinding his teeth together to fight against the pain. This is a holding area to stage you before you're transferred into federal custody. Rice sits down in a plastic chair opposite the team. You are very difficult to apprehend. Sorry I didn't make it harder, Jake replies, looking away. His eyes scan the room for any signs of weakness that could be exploited. Experienced eyes notice Jake's studying gaze. You still think you're going to find a way out of this, don't you? Rice asks, smiling with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. Just waiting on my other side to wake up, Jake replies, still looking around. Rice's expression changes, his eyes narrowing on the teen. The demon Yamura. You still would have us believe that you're a victim of possession rather than a cold-blooded murderer? Jake shrugs. Believe what you want. Explain it to me. When did you first become possessed? Rice looks through a two-way mirror and nods, making sure the exchange is being recorded. For the first time, someone asks for his side of the story. Jake is taken aback and unsure how to respond. Finally, he decides that telling his version of the events cannot make things any worse. Back in August, a couple days after school started from summer break, he pauses. Wait, why are you asking if you don't believe me? This is your chance to convince me. Make me a believer. Rice leans in closer, his voice deepening into a more threatening tone. If you're unable, no judge or jury will ever believe you. Elian Schaefer, Jake whispers. It was him. He did this to me. The martial arts instructor. What brought about this conflict? From my records, you attended Taekwondo classes in Bloomington, and had never been to any of Schaefer's lessons before the day that he was killed. That's right. He wasn't my teacher. It was Danny's. Jake is quiet, pausing again thoughtfully. She brought me there to meet him. Please elaborate. We don't have much information during this time, as only witnesses remaining were you and Miss Livingston, and she's gone missing. Danny is gone? Jake is genuinely surprised, and this catches Rice off guard, who assumes that the two teens coordinated their escape from Rockland. She's another assumed victim of your villainy. Do you mean to tell me that you have no knowledge of her fate? I swear that I haven't spoken to Danny since I left town. I haven't talked to anyone, I just left. It was safer for everybody that way. Rice tries to walk Jake into a carefully constructed verbal trap. You were afraid that you might hurt them the way that you hurt the others. I didn't kill anyone. Not even Schaefer, even after he forced this demon into your body. He raped your very soul. I can see why someone would want to rid the world of a monster like that. I didn't kill Schaefer. He tried to put Yamura back into his prison, and paid for that with his life. You killed him, Yamura killed him, it doesn't really matter. Split personalities is not a convincing argument in a murder case. It rarely works on judges or in trial. Yamura isn't just another personality of me. He's an entirely separate being. He tried to destroy me when he took over, so that I couldn't fight back against him. Every life he took, he did so wearing my skin. You have no idea how maddening that is. To be utterly helpless, as a monster spills blood and everyone thinks it's you doing it. And yet here you are, speaking to me. Where is this fearsome Yamura now? He obviously was unable to destroy you. I had help. Jake's thoughts briefly flashed to Danny, Rusty, and Amy. He hopes that each of them is doing well without him around as a threat. The knowledge that he ruined any of their lives pains him more than any gunshot wound. Let me speak to Yamura. Perhaps he would be more convincing. He's on lunch break. How about you try again later? Jake sighs, closing his eyes to rest for a moment from the pain. That seems a little too convenient. Put you on the spot, you're unable to produce even a shred of evidence. Continue to wait, and then tell me how disappointed you are with the result, after he's torn all of your faces off and laid your entrails out for the whole world to see. The local police officer becomes angry at the threat, preparing to strike the teen, but his hand is stayed by the more experienced federal agent. Don't be an idiot. Do you want all of his testimony to be thrown out because he was hit while in restraints? We have to follow every procedure by the book so that no loophole allows this brat to ever again see the light of day. Jake pushes the more emotional officer, hoping to gain an advantage without having to rely on the still absent Yamura. Just because you're scared of me, that doesn't mean that he is. Isn't that right? He reads the golden emblemized name tag on the officer's left breast. Officer Branham? Shut up, Branham growls, folding his arms and leaning back against the wall. If Yamura takes over, your screams won't stop him. He'll only get excited as he makes you suffer. Your imaginary friend isn't going to be hurting anyone. If I were you, I'd be more concerned on making myself less appealing sexually to the felons. Jake rolls his eyes. A prison rape joke. Very classy. Without Yamura, it doesn't seem like there's any way out of this predicament for the teen. He wonders why Yamura is still unresponsive. Normally, the Sakari would have recovered by now. Not even Yamura's avatar lingers in Jake's mind, and this troubles the teen greatly. There are some things that we still don't know, Rice says, trying to get back on track. Your father worked for the Conco branch out of Rockland. I sure as hell didn't kill my dad, if that's what you're getting at. The idea has been floated around. Rice sits back down, hoping to ease tensions and make Jake more cooperative. It is obvious that he's experienced interrogations without having to resort to threats or violence before. I personally do not believe that you did such a thing. In fact, I believe that it was the death of your father that represented the tipping point in your life, that pushed you over the edge. Nice guess, Dr. Phil, Jake groans. But you're still off. I didn't kill anyone. Branham makes a disgusted hiss through his clenched teeth, angrily beginning to pace. He's heard enough of the touchy-feely bullshit, and is ready to toss Jake to the wolves. What about Clavemont? We know that you were there recently, Branham asks. Never heard of it, Jake says, again looking elsewhere with disinterest. Did you go to Clavemont seeking answers from Conco about your father's disappearance? Jake balls his fists and his muscles tighten. The federal agent is far too close to the truth for him to be comfortable. Antonio Khan has gone missing along with numerous members of his support staff and researchers. And the world weeps softly, Jake mutters. Excuse me if I don't sound too upset at our loss. Rice smiles, realizing he's received a bite. He continues to fish. So, are you also aware of Khan's less than scrupulous practices? Did I know that he was a frickin' mad scientist, experimenting on humans with an alien parasite? Yeah, I might have seen that in Newsweek or something. You destroyed Khan's labs in Clavemont and Atlanta to hide the evidence that you were there, didn't you? Prove it, Jake growls. Do I get a lawyer or something? We've been talking for a while, and I haven't had any representation. This conversation is just between us. I'm merely trying to get your perspective. Honestly, I've never ran across an individual quite like you before in all of my investigations. Then propose to me or let me go. The suspense is fucking killing me. Rice releases a loud sigh of frustration. He remembers why he never had any children. We definitely will not be letting you go. The evidence is not in your favor at all. We have countless witnesses to your crimes in Rockland, even more placing you on a direct course through Clavemont. We have motive for you to take revenge on Khan. Do I need to continue? Why stop? You're only now getting to the good stuff. Branham slams his fists against the wall, having had enough of the back and forth. This kid isn't Hannibal fucking Lecter. You don't need to build a psych profile on him. He's a murderer. He's as guilty as sin. You know it. I know it. Hell, he even knows it. I think the officer missed his nap today. He's very cranky, Jake whispers to Rice. The man is astonished that the teen can retain his sense of humor under the circumstances. How do you do that? Rice asks. Do what? Jake turns his head, not sure what the man is asking. How do you retain your humor? The world around you is burning, and you have no possible chance of escaping these charges. You'll be tried as an adult and put away for hundreds of years at best. If no one believed a word you said, how would you cope? I'm possessed by a demonic creature that no one believes even exists. I'm being blamed for his countless crimes, and I've had to bear witness to him hurting the people that I cared the most about. All the while, he's doing this in my own body." Jake's eyes shine with sincerity and deep sadness that catches Rice off guard. If I didn't crack jokes, the pain would eat me alive. He's good, Rice thinks. The right jury might actually buy that he believes this stuff. The kid could be judged mentally incapable of his circumstances and sent to a psychiatric hospital rather than a prison. I don't know if that's for the best, though. He could be so deranged that he can turn these tears on and off and get people to lower their guard around him before he strikes with full monstrous fury. I still think he's dangerous, and I can't in good conscience release him into a situation where he might hurt more people. "I'm so sick of listening to this bullshit," Branham growls. "Then go outside," Rice says coldly. "I need to go over every last detail of this case. Some things are still not making any sense to me. If we do not talk to him now, we may never get another opportunity this good. We cannot overlook any minute detail." A blinding white light fills the room, forcing everyone who is able to shield their eyes with their hands instinctively. A loud vibrating hum, likened to an ancient horn, drowns out all other sound. "You lasted much longer than I expected," the Yazatan deserter known as Cedrion says, as he appears in the interrogation room. Jake is struck speechless by the appearance of the man-like creature now standing before him. The being is tall and muscular, with cream-colored hair and faded, worn armor. "I tried to delay the authorities by giving them enough evidence to go after Inyana for that young girl's death, but they really do seem to have it in for you." Branham staggers back, still partially shielding his eyes as his vision returns. "Who the hell are you?" He draws a gun from his hip holster, but Cedrion places a hand on the officer's forehead with unbelievable speed. A deafening sound vibrates out, shattering the windows and causing blood to ooze from the officer's eyes, ears, and nose. "He's a troublesome one, isn't he?" Cedrion asks, turning to Jake as if they were old friends. "He does not like you at all." The officer screams as his body is consumed by light. When the light fades, only a shadow is burned into the wall, and that is all that remains of Officer Caleb Branham. "You killed him!" Jake screams, tugging at his restraints. Cedrion nods with a smile. "And you're welcome." He turns, placing a hand on Rice's forehead. The special agent trembles in fear and disbelief. "Interesting," Cedrion mutters to himself, removing his hand. "I'd better leave you alive." Several more officers hurry to the room, after watching the horror unfold via the two-way mirror. Cedrion sends the door out against them with a pulse of invisible energy just as they reach it. The Yazata turns and levitates the video camera out of the spying room and into his hand. "This could have caused us a great deal of headache," Cedrion says, crushing the device in his hand. "What do you want with me?" Jake asks, the flesh around his wrists raw and bleeding from pulling at them to free himself. Cedrion snaps his fingers. The shackles holding Jake disappear in an instant. "You have a problem with gratitude." Jake leaps at the Yazata, ignoring all pain in his body. He does not care if he dies. Dying in battle with this inhuman creature would be better than what surely awaits him with the police. He wonders how such a horrible and callous creature could ever have been the inspiration for Judeo-Christian concepts of angels. Cedrion swats the teenager out of the air with a backhand and sends him crashing against the wall. Jake feels his body break on impact, each bone simultaneously snapping. He collapses to the floor in an almost liquid puddle, with no internal solidity remaining. "That was not very smart," Cedrion says, looking down at the teen's mangled body. Jake's limbs are contorted in unnatural directions, and his heartbeat begins to plummet. The Yazata casts the powerful healing spell of Dukan Heles, without having to speak the incantation. In an instant, Jake's wounds are healed. "Can you try to be a bit more civil now?" Within Jake, the damage that was preventing Yamura from regaining consciousness is repaired, and the Sakari awakens at hearing the familiar-sounding voice. Jake again runs at Cedrion, but the Yazata's superior speed makes him impossible for the teen to hit. "I came here to get you." So why don't you just calm down and be grateful? Cedrion asks, dodging each of Jake's desperate strikes. A fire erupts inside of Yamura, forcing his consciousness to the surface in a flash. The Sakari snarls, his mouth hanging open like a feral beast. A look of pure hatred is set in his crimson eyes. "My prince," Cedrion says mockingly, giving a half-bow. "I wondered if you would ever awaken." "Why are you here?" Ymir growls, refusing to take his eyes off the fallen Yazata. "As I already explained to your partner, I came here to liberate you from your captivity." The officers in the hall stir, making their way back up to their feet. Cedrion extends a hand and smiles a sinister grin. "You decide, come with me or stay here with them." Ymir rushes forward, grabbing Cedrion's wrist before the two of them vanish in a blinding flash, utilizing the Yazata's teleportation ability of Shunkonido. Rice stares at the spot where moments before the angelic being stood. He turns his gaze towards the remains of Officer Branham. "That thing spared me. But why? Why did it kill Branham, but not me?" He looks down at his hands, white from being clenched tightly in fear. "I couldn't move. I was so petrified that I couldn't even draw my weapon. What was that man? How was he able to kill Branham with just a touch? And Stewart, his eyes. What were wrong with his eyes?" "Rice, are you okay?" an officer asks, rushing into the room. I'm not sure." Ymir and Cedrion materialize far from the police department in a flash of light. Immediately, Ymir pulls free from the Yazata and puts distance between them with a leap. "Why have you helped us?" Ymir growls. "Us? There's an us now?" Cedrion laughs. "I would never have guessed a human boy could tame the bloodthirsty General Ymir." Ymir surrounds his body with a flashing black aura of fiery energy. "I shall show you how bloodthirsty I am." Cedrion sighs, shaking his head. With a slight wave of his hand, he is able to cease Ymir's aura and drop him to his knees. Ymir gasps for breath, the oxygen around him severely depleted. "You always were an arrogant little wretch. To think that you actually believed you could stand up to a higher being." "You are no higher being. You are a Grigori coward and a lapdog of Marduk. I am and will always be Yazata. My race can never be taken away from me." "Did my sister send you?" Ymir asks, straining to lift his head and glare at Cedrion. "I do not take orders from Inyana, nor did I ever. Any assistance I gave her or her mate in the past was for my own reasons alone. Do you honestly believe Inyana would have had me rescue you?" Cedrion again laughs. "Then why? I do not understand. There are big plans in the future for both of you. You and your vessel. You cannot be allowed to rot away in a human prison, or worse, be put to death. No, too much is riding on you to be crushed by your recklessness." "I am not your pawn. Damn whatever plans you have. I shall not be a part of them." Cedrion snaps his fingers, forcing Jake's spirit into dominance. "You will do exactly as I say, because you have no other choice. I know the destiny laid out for you, even if you are unaware. You will fulfill that destiny no matter what." "Fuck you and your destiny. Ymira's right. We aren't your puppets to be controlled. Whatever you want, I'll do the damn opposite from now on. I refuse to satisfy you." Cedrion smiles, his hands mimicking the movements of a marionette controller. Each movement the Yazata makes, Jake is forced to imitate. "I'm going to kill you," Jake growls, dancing to Cedrion's control. "You are a pathetic human child. I am older than the planet upon which we now stand. I have witnessed the rise and fall of a dozen races before yours, and I shall witness a dozen more after you return to dust." Cedrion breaks the control, losing his amusement. He begins to become irritated with Jake and his threats. "Go live your life. I will see to it that you remain on the correct path. Think of me as your Fervashis, your guardian angel." "Ymir, is there a chance that we can take him?" Jake asks the Sakari's avatar within their mind space. Not without the element of surprise. He is most likely on guard for any attack we could present. In order to successfully attack him, we'd first have to lure him into some kind of a trap. Cedrion's voice interrupts them. Yazata are capable of reading the thoughts and minds of mortal beings. You cannot formulate any plan against me. Yumura grinds his teeth in anger and balls his fist tightly. The Yaza continues to read his mind, seeing his intent to keep fighting. Oh, come on, Cedrion sighs, throwing up his hands in exasperation. Are you really going to do this? Yumura leaps at the Yazata with his full fury. The ground cracks and swells out beneath his force. The sonic boom erupts as the Sakari's fist reaches the face of his target. The blow connects, and the massive energy released causes the surrounding greenery to burst into flames. The buildings around them are reduced to rubble. Cedrion stands unfazed, looking on as Yumura's fist remains in contact with his face. Are you finished? Cedrion asks, his speech muffled by the Sakari's fist. Yumura stares on in horror, his full power unable to even affect the mighty fallen Yazata. With the mere flick of his index finger, Cedrion strikes the former general in the forehead. Yumura is sent speeding backwards through an apartment building, the entire structure collapsing upon him. Played dead. It will be much easier on you, Cedrion says into the rubble. Yumura crawls from the ruins, blood streaming down his face. Both he and Jake are able to sense the last of numerous life forces vanishing around them. He killed everyone inside just by hitting us with his finger, Jake says, fear and panic overtaking him. Yumura does not respond, refusing to give in to Cedrion's plans for them. If the Yazata wishes for him to stand down, then he will die on his feet in a furious blaze. Black energy explodes around the Sakari, and the demonic howl of some otherworldly beast emanates from the darkness. Basaia Vovin! Yumura growls, his energy taking the form of an enormous black dragon. The ground shakes and the sky itself darkens. Geysers of flame erupt from the earth, and any buildings remaining erect in the vicinity are reduced to ash. Yumura, stop this! You're only killing more people! Jake screams, his avatar struggling against that of the Sakari. Shut up! Yumura's avatar hisses, backhanding Jake. You have no idea how long I've waited for this moment. This bastard assisted Marduk in the assassination and overthrow of my father, and caused my slavery. His death is long overdue. But at the cost of innocent lives. Their worthless lives matter not. Revenge is my only concern. Yumura throws his arms forward, sending the black dragon out at Cedrion with a roar. Black flame dragon, consume his very soul. Cedrion digs his heels in and takes a deep breath before stepping up to meet the energy dragon with a right hook punch. The Yazata's fist reduces the attack into millions of sparkling particles. The released concussion sinks the street into a deep crater that consumes the wreckage around them. Most of the buildings already leveled are atomized, and the clouds darkening the sky are obliterated. Yumura drops to his knees, defeated in body and spirit. Not bad, Cedrion says, shaking his fist. The skin is charred black. I actually felt that. Using Shunkan Ito, Cedrion teleports behind Yumura and presses the tip of his sword against the Sakari's back. This is over. You know that I can kill you at any moment I wish. This entire display was futile. You never stood any chance against me. Yumura's face is drained of color, and a thick sheen of sweat covers his skin. Defeated, he no longer has the will to fight back. Good boy, Cedrion says with a smile, sheathing his sword. I will be in touch. With that, the Yazata vanishes, leaving behind a beaten Yumura amidst the ruins of their short and one-sided battle. Sirens grow loud, and people on the outskirts of the wreckage begin to crowd around the crater's edge. We have to go, Jake whispers, still deeply troubled by Yumura's actions. We don't need to be caught again just for that bastard to come in and cause more destruction in order to release us. Yumura is unresponsive, thinking only of the shame he feels at being too weak to avenge his father. The smug face of the rogue Yazata taunts Yumura in his mind. All of my boasting and posturing, Yumura thinks. All of my training to become the strongest. It was all for nothing. Cedrion was out of my reach all along. I never even registered to him as the challenge. To that Yazata, I was less than a gnat. Since the day that Elio and my father were killed, I have been chasing a mirage. I never stood a chance of avenging them. I was a complete fool. My life has been a waste of time. I would have preferred dying with them that day. The only two people that I ever cared about were stolen from me, and I was too weak to strike down their murderer when finally given the opportunity. I'm sorry, Elio. I'm sorry, Father. You both deserved better than me. I'm nothing more than an absolute failure. Yamura, Jake whispers. Can you hear me? We need to keep moving. What is the point? My continued existence means nothing. Jake is confused. He isn't used to hearing Yamura sound so depressed. Look, I know killing Cedrion was on your bucket list, but if we don't get going, we'll never get another shot at him. The result would be the same. Training for 1,000 years would not be enough for us to reach Cedrion's level of strength. Let's set smaller goals, Jake says. Inyana is within our reach. How about we kick the shit out of your sister, then see where that takes us? Yamura is silent for a moment. I've caused you nothing but misery. Why are you trying so hard to cheer me up? Your actions make no sense. Whether either of us wants to admit it or not, we need each other. If you and me aren't both at our absolute best and thinking clearly, we'll never be able to pull Cedrion down from his ivory tower. You felt the gulf between him and me, yet you still aspire to fight him again. Yusakari lack the overwhelming perseverance of us humans. We may be weaker, but we never give up. As long as Cedrion keeps making the mistake of leaving us alive, we'll keep getting back up and coming after him. It may take 1,000,000 tries, but all we need is one good day to make that chicken regret ever fucking with us. For the first time in thousands of years, Yamura smiles for any reason other than a vile one. Thank you. Your words have lifted me from my despair. You're right. We will get knocked down, but we will continue to get back up and keep fighting. Inyana will serve as the launching point for our new path forward. My sister will die. Then we will track Cedrion down again, and again, until we have that good day. Jake nods. I think today's going to turn around. He smiles. Being shot may end up being the worst thing to happen to us today.